So we are full on in the middle of winter. So this week we're gonna recreate a season lapse where we change from one season to another, just like in these shots. All right, so I'm Scott Herter, a videographer out of Brooklyn, New York, who specializes in time-lapse and hyperlapse, and specifically trying to blend them and create the illusion that is all done in one take. And this is a weekly series where each week I try to recreate a time-lapse technique or something that I saw that inspired me online and kind of just share what I've learned going through the process. And I got a link to last week's where I tried to recreate this car stop motion effect, which is really cool, by Film Spectacle. And I first saw this time-lapse technique when I was watching one of Rob Whitworth's films about Cappadocia. But I've also seen it done really well by fellow time-lapsers Tyler Fairbanks in his Central Park video, and also by Jonas Hoholt. They're all amazing and have done incredible work with this technique. And the idea is pretty straightforward. We just need 2 time-lapses from different seasons. And the ones that I feel like have been the best or had like that kind of wow factor have involved snow, just kind of seeing the season change into snow or the snow melts away, whichever one. So I'm really excited about trying to recreate that. So for step 1, we just need to find something that we want to shoot a time lapse of. I recommend shooting 10 seconds of it. Step 2 is to wait until winter or wait until the next part of the season and shoot the exact or as close to the exact same time lapse as you possibly can. Again, also 10 seconds. And then step 3 would be to align them in a video editing software. And I'm gonna be showing you how to do this in both Premiere and After Effects, both really similar. So now that we know all of the steps, let's take a look at some of the mistakes that I made during execution and see what I learned. And after going through this, I have 3 tips that I wish I would have done to make this a little bit easier for you. Tip number 1, if you have a prime or a fixed lens, go ahead and shoot on that, because then you won't have to worry about your focal length changing. Tip number 2 is to take reference photos of your tripod where you put it, so that way you can put it back in the exact same place in the exact same configuration when you get back. It's gonna save a lot less time editing later. And tip number 3 is to keep a reference photo on your actual SD card, so that way if you don't have a prime lens or you're kind of out and about on the field, you can just pop your SD card from the other shoot, and that way you have a reference right into your camera. You can also check to see your focal length, and it'll make it a little bit easier to match the shots exactly. And all of those things are things that I either learned after doing this or things that I wish I had done because I was hilariously off with my alignment when I was shooting these. And let's just take a look at how off all of these shots really are. And the reason why they're all so off is because recently we had a storm and I wanted to go get photos for our website. And when I was out there sharing stories on Instagram, a fellow time-lapser named Alessandro, he said, oh, you should shoot some time lapses. And I got the idea, you know, this would be a good day to try to recreate this effect, this season lapse. Because I didn't plan that in advance, I didn't have the same camera, I didn't have any reference photos on my SD card, I just had to use my memory of sequences that I had already shot. And those are the reasons why I absolutely missed all the alignments on all of the shots. But it's okay because we can kind of fix it in our editing software. So we're gonna do this in Premiere, and then I'll show you in After Effects as well. So I shot this fall sequence on a Sony a7R II that shoots 8K stills, and then the winter sequence I shot on the a7S III that shoots 4K stills. And I'm just gonna bring these both into a 1920 by 1080 timeline and stack them on top of each other with the winter scene being on top. And then I'm just gonna scale the winter scene until I have the framing that I want. And in Premiere, I want to go into view and show rulers and make rulers along the edges of the building. And once I have a good outline on the rulers, I can hide this layer and try my best to get the other scene aligned as close as possible to the rulers. And once I have them close, I'll turn them both on. And on my top layer, I'll change the blend mode to difference. And this will show me if things are aligned pretty well. Black being perfectly aligned, and don't worry about it being absolutely perfect. And then I'm also gonna have to play with my scale and even uncheck uniform scale and just tweak it ever so slightly and toggle on and off blending modes. And this is probably gonna take a few minutes to get it aligned as best as possible. For Premiere users, you can fine tweak this even more by adding the transform effect, allowing you to distort the image to fit it even better. Personally, I don't really like using Premiere for this because I find all these sliders really cumbersome and annoying. You have to just kind of tweak them one by one. I want to be able to nudge the file's position with the keyboards. So I like doing this in After Effects because I can just press on the arrow keys and moving the file is just a lot easier. Lastly, there is this awesome puppet tool feature in After Effects, which looks like a little thumbtack. And when I click on it, I can click around the image and move specific parts to align it perfectly just to get that better precision. It's a lot easier and it's a lot faster to get these results. All right, and so once we're done with that, it's just time to blend the two shots together. And there's a lot of different ways to do this. You can actually just adjust the opacity over time. So here's what it looks like if we just adjust the opacity for 1 second. And here's what it looks like if we adjust the opacity over 2 seconds. And honestly, these look pretty good. But what I found my favorite way to do this is to add a luma key effect and just adjust the luma key. And this is a transition that was made popular by Sam Kolder, and it's really effective at hiding any of the inconsistencies in these two shots, because what it does is it just introduces the snow a little bit, and then your eyes kind of follow the snow. And so since your eyes have something to lock onto, it hides any of the little inconsistencies. So to introduce the snow in Premiere, all you have to do is throw the luma key effect on there, turn your cutoff and threshold to 100, click on the stopwatch, and then animate them from 100 to 0 over a second. Then you're just gonna add some easy ease and you're absolutely done. And for some extra oomph, add some sound design of, freezing snow, freezing ice, or ice crackling and some blustery wind, and you're done. I also tried adding an overlay of snow that I found online, but the feedback that I got was that it was way too over the top and people genuinely didn't like that. Total personal preference. And what's great about this technique is that it's also the same technique that you would use if you wanted to do a layer lapse. And you could actually just shoot one sequence before the sun sets, and then just like maybe an after hour of the sun sets, and do the same effect and get a cool layer lapse like this. And you'll be able to do that a lot faster than having to wait multiple months. And if you wanted to do this with a hyperlapse like what we have here, you'd follow the exact same steps, but you'd have to animate the position and scale a lot more to make sure it aligns over time. And this one is a lot harder to do, especially if you're like me and you forgot what focal length to use, because objects in the background might not align as well. All right, well, that's it for this video. I hope it sparked a little bit of creativity or gave you something new to think about or try. This is week 2 of me recreating kind of Cinecom's Copycat Friday and following along with Austin Kleon's book, Show Your Work. So I'm gonna start looking on the internet to see if there's anything else I should try to recreate for next week. If you have any ideas, please leave them in the comments below. And if you are curious about time-lapse and hyperlapse techniques, I have a course where I actually walk you through the whole entire process from shooting, editing, planning, and even give you assets that you can download and recreate to get shots like these. If that's something that's interested in you, I have a link to that in the description where you can get the course on sale. Other than that, feel free to subscribe. Happy shooting, and I'll see you next week.